I'm not afraid of technology, but I'm also, on the other hand, not that good at it, but I'm doing my best. Okay, can we start?
Yes, by all means.
The chat, somebody on the chat.
Doesn't work, so I'll be with you without camera. It's okay. Sometimes it doesn't work, but don't you worry. It's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, as long as you participate.
Yeah.
As long as you're an active participant. Okay, I'm pressing now. This is a demonstration of how we play the game. It's not of how I demonstrate the sounds. It's one stage after, okay? It's with an autistic. I showed you the picture of him last week. He is autistic. He was at the time 19 years old. And he also has speech problems, so his articulation is not clear. And I speak a little Hebrew in between, but you will still understand the game, of course. Okay, so let's try. Let's pray and try. Okay, what do we have here?
0.
Z for 0, very good. And thank you. And I can't see.
Down.
No. A for under. A for under. Okay. Next, your turn.
Sandwich.
Sandwich. S for sandwich. And take your hand away so I can see the card. I can see. A for animals. 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 S for sweater. And
Coffee.
K for coffee. Next, your turn.
Zebra.
Z for zebra and
sheriff.
Sh for sheriff. Sh for sheriff and A for umbrella. Where's the under? Where's the A for under? A. Okay. J for jeans and you need the
0.
Z for 0. Okay. What do we have here? K for cat and S for sweater.
Giraffe.
J for giraffe and J for gym. J for giraffe and J for gym. Don't you hear? J for giraffe and J for gym. It's a pair. It's yours. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things, it's not enough just to understand that you see a cat and you see a giraffe or you see the gym. The student needs to be able to isolate the J for giraffe and the J for gym or the K for cat. Okay, so this is one of the things we train them to do. As you saw, I'm an active participant. It's not that I just let him work. We work together. It's not his game and it's not his lesson. It's our lesson. So we work together, we play together, and we struggle together because sometimes the students' memory is much better than mine because they're all mostly younger. So they can remember better, and very often they beat me. So it's fun. But on the other hand, we still, I always say the games are a big manipulation because through the games, I manage to get what I want. I want to train their phonological awareness. I want to train the isolation of sounds, the analyzing the sounds, to separate the sounds. These are things that I manage to do through these games. Okay, so here's our autistic, one of the autistic students. Here, the story behind this, for you, Florence, this was at Lisa's. I flew to Switzerland, and on the same day that I landed, I went to see her student, and he doesn't speak English, only French. But I still didn't want to communicate with him in French, although I know a little. So I played with him. But here now we play in threes, because now we don't only have two cards which symbolize the sounds, we also attached already the letter itself. Now look at the picture. Now I'm horizontal, and all of a sudden I go like vertical, but it works. It still works. Where is it? Here it is.
one, and another one, L for lemon. Okay? No match. No, three. Only three.
Okay.
Only three. Okay, now my turn. My turn. Okay. T for telephone, L for lemon, and L for lemon, my pear. Your turn. A for apple and animals, E for igloo, I. Another one. 3 cards. 3. One more. You, one more. Right, no match. My turn. D for dog, A for apple. I forgot what the A is. A for under. Okay. Where's the A? Do you know? Where's the A? Find the A. Hat. For hat. For panda, panda, and L for llama. Now, look, I have this, you take this and you can block me. It's yours, you can blockade, okay? Now it's, this is 1, 2, and you have another one? Did you turn over, panda, okay. So turn them back, this is yours. Now it's my turn. F for animals, O for orange, and F for apple. Apple, animals. Okay? Your turn. T for telephone, N, and O. Organ? Organ. Okay, O for organ. M for melon, O for orange, B for blue. Your turn. I think it's enough. You can.
Okay. You see here, I had to make sure that he also uses organ, that the instrument is in French also organ, and he understands that it stands for organ, because maybe in French they say it differently. So that's why I asked Lisa, organ, is that okay, organ? So yes. So this is one of the things that you have always to be aware of, culture-wise, language-wise, if the same words or cognates are used also in your country. Okay. Then what I owe you is the dyslexic hearing and the global hearing. When I say that the students very often find it difficult to separate or split the words into syllables, separate the sounds, and they don't know where to stop. Remember, I asked you what the main function for me of the vowels is, and for me the main function or the main function of the vowels is the stopping. Okay, so when I train them and I say like Florence has many letters in her name, but she has only 2 stops. Okay, it's Flor and Rens. It's only 2 stops. Why do I like the stop method? Because you don't need to write in order to split it or break it up into syllables. All you have to do is to hear. But hearing is also not easy for everyone, and this is why we also need to train the hearing. They need to understand that they can split a word, and even if they say it very fast, it still have the same amount of stops. Okay? It doesn't matter if I say it quickly or not, the number of stops remains the same. Now, for instance, we have a name like Dalia. But if you say Dalia, all of a sudden you have 3 stops. Depends how you say it. Dalia has 3, Dalia has only 2. Okay? But with names and with objects that they know, it's easier to hear and to split it, although many have problems even in hearing that. So this is what I call global hearing. The inability to divide the word naturally into stops. The inability to identify sounds and isolate them, like K for cat or B for banana. And the inability to convert sounds to graphemes and vice versa, we know that. And the stop sign means that if I hear two stops, I need to have two stop letters at least. Sometimes I can have, as you know, a combination of vowels, but I need at least one vowel per stop I hear. So instead of calling it vowels, I call it stop letters. This is something that I did not long ago with a group. Where is my bar? Hey. Okay. It's in Hebrew, but you will soon understand what I meant to do. It's like, okay, I'll show it to you. Oh, no. No.
אם יש לי גו, ממה זה מורכב? גו ואו. ג ואו, מעולה. אם יש לי ג, ממה זה מורכב? ג ואה. אם יש לי פי, ממה זה מורכב? פ ואי. עוד פעם, אם יש לי פי? פ ואי. אם יש לי פו? פו ואו. נכון. פו ואו. רק לשמוע, נכון, התבלבל, רק לשמוע. ואו, אם יש לי קור, ממה זה מורכב? ק ואו. אתם תותחים. אם יש לי בו, ממה זה מורכב? ב ואו. אם יש לי בי, ממה זה מורכב? ב ובי. כמה צירות יש לי בביבי?
How many stops?
שתיים. בי, בי. אם אני רוצה לקרוא לביבי, כמה צירות? רוצה לקרוא לו, בו בי בי, שלוש. נכון, בו בי בי. כל הכבוד.
Okay. What I did is I analyzed it. I broke it up. Okay, if they hear bo, they need to know that we need to have two letters. Now, not in every alphabetic system it works like this. I must tell you in brackets, very short, that Hebrew and Arabic don't always have vowels, which means that you just have the letter B, and then you have to deduce if it's a B, a bo, a be, a bu. There are no vowels. So for these children to understand that bo is composed of two letters and fi has two letters is essential. Okay? Now when you come from your Latin alphabet, it's not weird. But just imagine that the letter F could stand for fi and fo and fe and fa. Okay?
And the problem that we have in Hebrew, that the same grapheme also stands for two sounds, f and p. So that even complicates the situation, because the process of looking at the letter and associating it with one sound goes against what they're used to see in Hebrew, which is one letter that could have two sounds. So the complication is even harder. Yeah.
On the other side, in Hebrew, we have only one letter, and in English, we have the SH and TH, which is also complicated then. But the thing is that the vowels, the system of the vowels is not, we are not familiar with it. So for them to understand that one sound contains two letters, composes of two letters, is very difficult. So this is why I did this drill. And now, remember, again, synthesizing our phonetic dictations. I am very much for phonetic dictations, because through these phonetic dictations, I achieve better reading, I achieve better awareness, and that's why I also achieve the reading. So through the phonetic dictations, they understand the alphabetic principle, And also the problem with the vowels that they have to hear the stop and put a stop letter when they hear it. So here is one of the, I think I have two here.
One thing before you play it, that we don't give the students a list of words to remember by no chance. This is done on the spot after they finish the lesson, after they finish the unit. There is no employing of the learning by heart by no means. There are no long lists of verbs, words, whatever you want to call it. It's just putting together the letters and the sounds that they have learned in each unit and scaffolding the learning through the phonetic dictation.
This is the conversion from sound into a grapheme. This is what I need. I don't need anything else. Okay, so let's see the difficulties.
Okay, please write Kelly.
Two sounds, two stops. Kelly.
Kelly.
Kli.
Okay, you wrote Kli. I need two stops. Kelly. Kelly. Kelly, not Kli. No, this is the same. I need Kelly, not Kli. Kelly. Two stops. I need another stop. I need another stop. Okay, let's see. Let's see what you are doing now. Kelly. Very good. That's it.
You know, at the beginning, they're afraid of the dictations because school kills them with dictations. Once they come to me or to us, we teach them that dictations are not frightening, and they start loving it. And when they get to a dictation in the books, they really chase us. I have a dictation, come and help me, come and dictate. I want dictation. I want more dictation. And then when a student who sits next to the one who takes the dictation sees that he's taking it, I want also dictation. They really love it because it's a game. They don't feel intimidated anymore.
Or for the time being. For me about this particular video is the way in which she self-corrects herself. Okay, this is very important. Like, she heard it once, she wrote it wrongly. She heard it twice, she wrote it wrongly. But then she understood, and that process of understanding literally leaves a print, you know, in her brain of how things should be done and the improvement. And the fact that we work with pencil is not minor, you know. Pencils so that they can correct themselves and go over it and improve. It's very, very important.
It's funny because for me it's obvious and I don't see anything special about it. When you, yeah. Okay. Also the fact that they find the right answer by themselves is very encouraging instead of us telling them how it should be. Okay, so now she wrote Kelly. Let's see what the next word is.
Let's write Koli. 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 Very good. Now kilo. 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 Where's the kilo? Let me see. This is not kilo. This is klo. I need kilo. Two stops. Ki and lo. Kilo. Kilo. Very good. Much better. Okay, let's write Gobi. 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 Go, g as in guitar. Gobi. Go, yes. Gobi. B, b, b as in banana.
You need to be patient though.
Banana. Gobi. Okay, and now let's write glob. Glob. You're a good girl. Glob. Glob. Yay! Very good.
The fact that they can write glob and don't put an extra vowel between the G and the L is great. Because usually also in Hebrew we don't have many words like this, like the clusters, and they always want to add vowels where they are not needed and omit vowels where they should be. So it's a big mess. The fact that she heard and put down glob and not gelob or things like that, that's great. Also, she got right the direction of the B, and you see there are commas between each word. Great job.
One very important thing also is that the page immediately before the assignment has a revision of each of the letters, and they have to choose a sticker. So, and it's very important that it's right next to it, so that if they don't remember, they can go and use their visual summary, let's say, and the visual reinforcement of something they have chosen as a sticker to remind them of the sound that the letter makes. So in a way, like Daniela said, we don't give them the answer. Worst case scenario, I tell them, look at the chart, look at the stickers you have used, that you've chosen, and tell me which one does the sound of G, L, O, B. And in that way, they build the knowledge themselves.
Okay, here, this is one of the videos that you are going to send them anyway, right?
Yeah.
But I still want to show you, Florence reminded me of this video. This girl is in the 5th grade, I think, and I taught her brother many years ago. Still, the mother was late in calling me, or with calling me, and she's already in the 5th grade. She couldn't recognize even one letter not long ago, and it's a poor thing, as I call her. She really struggles with everything, and the mother made a big effort, also financially, and I did all my best in order to ease that thing as well, and they paid very little, but she was really a model for us. And slowly she learned more and more, and she smiled, and she really captured what we wanted her to capture, like this alphabetic principle. So here we are using the cards instead of writing, again, to make up words. So this is now from YouTube. Let me try.
הנחנו אותם סתם, נכון? כן. בלי קשר, אוקיי. אם אני רוצה שתכתבי...
I want you to write.
פו. אז במה תשתמשי?
Now she has to choose.
כן, בפו ופו. מה? פו. את מי צריך? נכון מאוד. יופי. תחזירי.
Now she is putting them back.
עכשיו אני מבקשת שתעשי...
Can you hear me when I talk?
Yes.
Okay, even putting the cards back
כן.
is an assignment, is a challenge.
בוא, או, מי עושה או? או, נכון, או.
This is not the first video,
מה קיבלנו?
Florence.
בוא.
She is already able to do it.
יופי. Now I want פי.
You see, the symbols are there,
פי.
but this is maybe the 3rd or the 4th video. You will send them
Now I
all.
want בי.
Maybe I didn't upload all.
בי. מה קיבלתי?
B.
זה לא בי. זה מה?
זה O.
נכון. אני רוצה בי? נכון. Put them back. Now I want buff. Buff. זה ב וזה פ. אני רוצה אבל בוף. לא, חכי. זה יהיה ראשון. זה בסדר. זה ראשון. זה גם, אבל אני לא רוצה ב. אני רוצה בו. מי עושה בו? מה זה עושה?
לא, זהו.
נכון מאוד. יופי. מצוין. מה קיבלנו? בף. נכון? עכשיו אני רוצה שתכתבי for B. ואז אנחנו חוזרים לספר. for B.
This took a long time to get here.
for B. מי יהיה ראשון?
Who is
רוצה קודם
first?
להחזיר אותם?
הנה,
for B. כן. for B. מצוין, זה fob. עכשיו תפחי את זה רק, רגע, במקום fob, אני רוצה
She wanted to put it back.
B. אז מה מוסיפים? לא. כמה עצירות את צריכה? נכון. מעולה. מה כתבנו?
פאבי.
יופי.
She says it nicely. Okay,
Stop it, cancel it. Yeah.
I'm closing this one. And now it's time to start with today's webinar.
Yes.
3. Okay, and then we put it here.
Sorry, in that video, you could see exactly what Daniela said before about students missing the vowels, because for her it was enough with the consonants, okay, the B and the F. And it was very clear that it took her a while to understand that she needed another card. Yeah, slowly we built it.
Yeah, but this was the best performance I could get for, really. This was like the highlight of 3 months, I think. One of the things that I used to say, sometimes they ask me, how long does it take? It correlates with how severe your dyslexia is and how intelligent you are. It goes together. And I'll tell you a story. About 20 years ago, 15 years ago, we had a girl. She was about 19 years old, 20 years old, and she couldn't read English. And nobody succeeded in teaching her English. So I had one of the teachers working with her, and after about 7 or 8 lessons, that teacher came to me and said, look, I feel very bad. It's not moving. She doesn't succeed, and she won't be able to read. And I looked at the teacher and I said, listen, does she know a little more than 10 lessons ago or 7 lessons ago? If she does, it's worth it. If she hasn't learned anything, then I can agree with you. So she said, yes, she's learning, but it is so slowly. I said, never mind. In her situation, it will take her maybe 30 lessons, but she will get there. Don't despair, because eventually she will get there. But this is also a combination not just of dyslexia and learning disabilities. It's only sometimes low intelligence and everything together. But she made it. Eventually she made it. So we cannot give in. And sometimes if a person is just dyslexic and doesn't have, let's say, cognition-wise, is in a good situation, in a good position, it doesn't take that long. But if there are many, or there's a combination of many problems, then yes, it may take longer, but she will get there. The student will get there. So I encouraged them to continue, and she was so happy, that student, and eventually she wrote us letters, and she was so grateful. So it's really, really important not to give up and to be patient. And every student has his own pace, and sometimes it goes slower. Nothing to do about it. Okay, shall we then? Now we're getting to the advanced soft read. We know it's all about the patterns, because if you come from French or German or Spanish, Italian, you know that the big difference is the patterns. Okay, so we're going now to talk about how to introduce and practice the patterns. After we know already the stop letters and after we know all the sounds of all the letters. But I must say that Soft Read, the first book, has, I'll show you where it overlaps, okay? Why does it overlap? Because sometimes we have a student who can read a little, like, let's say, Spanish. He is quite good in Spanish, and now he doesn't really need all the b and l and f, because he knows it. So this is where we can start, okay? We don't need to go through everything. If you have a student like a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, you can start with young soft read. If the parents are interested in teaching him English before his native language, you can start with young. If he's dyslexic in his own L1 and still you want to teach him English, then you can use soft read, of course. But if they're not that dyslexic and they're quite okay in reading L1, your own native language, then it's okay to start with advanced to show and present and then later practice all the patterns of English. When I show you the screen like this, do you see the pictures as well of yourselves? Natasha, do you see your picture?
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I'll put it down. Now you don't see it?
No, I can see it.
Ah, it's the same. Okay. So you don't see what I see. All right.
On the right part, there's the book. So
right.
Now the pattern.
Okay, great. Okay, so the patterns, to be an independent reader and speller, we need to recognize and convert the patterns to know all the rules and all the generalizations. Of course, there are always the exceptions, and there are sight words, and it's okay. What we are going to cover, we're going to cover most of the patterns, and we're going to introduce most of the rules. But there are always extras or exceptionals to the rule in anything, in any rule. Any rule has its exceptions. So don't be worried by these exceptions. So we introduce and practice the advanced soft read, the method, the book, introduces and practices most of the reading and spelling patterns. I always emphasize the reading, but don't forget, once we know the patterns, we become also better spellers. And very often, if there are global readers, as we mentioned the other last week, if we have a global reader, then this student won't be aware of the patterns and will probably also be a poor speller. Now, if spelling is important to you, then you have to go over the book and teach the spelling. If you say, I can ignore the mistakes, and today we have these autocorrections all the time, and we can ignore the spelling, that's your way of thinking. I always tell the students that if you have too many mistakes, even the computer cannot help you. Okay, because there are too many mistakes. The computer can help you if you have one mistake, but not if you have 5 mistakes in one word. Okay, so in English we need to understand, to know the patterns, of course the silent letters, but also the effects caused by the neighboring letters, okay, like the letter R or the letter E. Why do we encounter all these difficulties? We talked about it. Latin is one-to-one conversion. In English we have patterns, combinations, and influences. What is our task? Our task is, first of all, to calm the student down, remember the horizon, to show the student the horizon, to introduce the patterns, the behavior of the language, to do it in a logical way, not to intimidate, and then to train the eye, which is actually to train the brain, to visually identify the pattern. Just today I had a student, and she finished the first book, and I told her, look, now you have your driving license, but you are a fresh driver, a new driver. You now need to read. Just read. Take very easy passages or books and read them. She came today, after we finished last week, with a passage, and she had about 20 new words. I said, what did I say? I said, we're not learning new vocabulary now. Now we are just practicing what you have learned. Lower the level. So I found some easier passages on the web, and I printed them out to her. And this is her task, just to train the eye now to identify all the patterns that we have learned. To train the conversion from the visual pattern that we see to the audio output, so we know that T-U-R-E is chair, etc. And also, of course, vice versa. That if I hear the word adventure or furniture or sculpture, I know that the end is chair and the chair is T-U-R-E. But now I mention the letters. I never mention the letters. I always say just the sound of the pattern. Like I always say the sound of the letter and I don't say the name of the letter. Everyone can read. Okay? Everyone can read unless there is an intelligence problem. But everyone can read. So we start with the phonological awareness, we do the analysis and the synthesis, we do a lot of pre-reading assignments, we detach from meaning. Remember, we at the beginning
We cannot hear you.
There's no sound.
Hello? Do you hear me?
Yes,
I hear
yes, I
you.
can. Yes,
Yeah, you hear me, but you don't see Daniela, and I don't have the... Okay. If you could please bear with me for a couple of seconds. Give me 1 second.
Tomasz, ne pritiskaj tako. Dobro, daj pojdi, adijo.
Hi, so we're back. Daniela is back. Now we're going to go back to sharing. Yeah.
Wait, one moment.
Can you all hear us now?
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
wonderful. I'm still recording. It's going to be a very long session, but it's okay.
No, maybe you should stop for a moment.
It will record. But we
No,
can
maybe
all listen.
Natasha, till where did you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Yeah.
No, but
Before?
where did I stop being
Oh,
heard?
huh. Wait. At the beginning, well, with the book on the right, and
No.
yeah, it was a few minutes. Quite
Yeah,
few
yeah, it
minutes.
was almost 20 minutes.
Wait.
When you were explaining the tasks of
Yes.
the therapist or teachers, then it stopped somewhere there.
So this you didn't see? You didn't hear me?
No.
No?
No.
This, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
This was from before. This?
No. I mean, we already seen this, but not today.
And this?
No.
No.
So you let me talk so long. And this also not?
No.
No.
Yo, oi. And this?
No.
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 Oh, here it stopped with Elo Belly. Yes.
There.
Here it stopped.
Okay. Okay. Cheer up, Daniela.
Do you want me to take over for a bit?
Frustrating.
I just realized you can't see me.
Actually, I just checked when I texted you 15 minutes ago, so then it stopped.
Yeah, this was the Elo Belly, I remember, because it was on the screen for quite some time, and then it turned black. So.
And there was no indication here that everything turned black.
We
nothing.
wrote to you that we don't hear you.
But
and
the chat.
yeah.
No, I because it wasn't working. I didn't get the chat. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So I'm repeating myself. I hope I didn't say it or you didn't hear me saying that before. One of the main problems that a dyslexic student has is the splitting up a word into syllables. Now, A, I don't use the word syllabus, and B, I don't expect him to do it because I expect him to be able to do it only by hearing a word. Okay, when we look at this word, I said that most of us, and I said that not long ago, one of the teachers that I was explaining it to her, she couldn't read it right. She read it as a dyslexic student. But most of us will read it as Elobeli, but a good dyslexic student will read it as L-E. Okay? And this is why we have the slide that what is natural for us is not natural for a dyslexic reader. We read naturally Elobeli, and he would read L-E. And if you try to read it, it's difficult. It's like walking with your left foot and your left arm. Okay, now I see the chat. Florence, if you're here, take over the chat. If you leave, let me know. Okay, and these are the real words. So if you know the word, you will say origin. But if our student doesn't know the word and he is dyslexic, there's no guarantee that he will read it as we expect him to read. Okay, so this is one of the problems that we are facing, and we have a solution to that as well. Now, most of you haven't encountered it. You really need to take care and treat many dyslexic students in order to come across the variety and the diversification of all the problems. But this is one of the main problems, and for that we also found a solution with the stop letters. Okay, here is the chart. As we said before, and Florence said it several times, we don't want to help the student too much. And what we do is always to refer the student to the material in the book or to the game or to the chart. So this is the chart. Now it is in the beginning of advanced soft read of the book, according to the ABC. In soft read, where we teach the basic alphabet and the sounds, we have it in our order. But now it's according to the regular traditional order. And you see that every sound, not every sound, every letter has two symbols. And as I told you the other time, that we have the two sounds for the letter G, the two sounds for the letter C, for Y, and for TH. Okay. Here I mentioned that there are several sounds which are more complicated, and also they have different sounds. Even the same letter, not even, the same letter has different sounds in different languages. So maybe you come from a language where the letter E is an E, or sometimes it's an A, or sometimes it's something else. So here we have the symbols of the egg and the elephant, and we prefer not to call it by the name of the letter, but only by the sound. And here we have the iguana, the igloo, Italy, and Italy and in. And I said before that here you may come across or confront a culture problem, because maybe not all the children know what an igloo is. So you can explain what an igloo is. And you can also later not use the igloo, because you have enough, you have other symbols, enough symbols that you can use instead of the word igloo. Sometimes purposely they want, and deliberately they want to use the word igloo, although they didn't know it, because they want to use something new. And then I talked about the letter H. The letter H is very problematic because in different languages it sounds differently. In Russian, for instance, you don't say, you don't exhale, but you use a ch. And in some languages you don't use it at all, it's always silent. And our Hebrew speakers, what they do, they use they pronounce the letter H instead of like eh. So this is something that also should be trained as to achieve the right articulation and pronunciation. And it should be mentioned that in your language it's like this, but in English it's pronounced like that. The letter U also may be a little problematic because they know the name of the letter U. It's very difficult for them to get the A out of it. And also, very often it is confused with the letter A, with the sound E and A. And of course, the letter E and the letter A are also confused. And I said that if they don't pronounce it very accurately, I let go. I don't insist on having the correct pronunciation because it will come later when they learn the language and they are more exposed to the sound of the letters in a word, within a word. This is an exercise. We have the same exercise in Soft Read in the first book, where they are required to sort the words by the number of stops. So they have a list of words, of names, actually, not words, and they have to write it according to the column, if it's 2 stops or 3 stops. And on the next page, they come up with their own names, names of neighbors, of children, of friends, of parents, family members, and they need to put it, if it's 1 pause or stop, 2, 3, or 3 and more, about 3. We teach them with 1 stop letter, like a name. In Hebrew, we have many. 1 is like Smith. It has many letters, but it has only 1 stop. Mike actually also has only 1 stop. Ed, as a shortened form of Edward, has 1 stop. And then we go like boom, because you cannot move. Okay? If we take Florence, as mentioned before, she has many letters, but only 2 stops. So it goes Florence. And we move all the time. And because they move, they feel the sound. Okay, it's not just like counting. Later they count or they use the fingers, but at the beginning, I always prefer to move. And this is what I said before. What's natural for us is not natural for them, and of course, vice versa. So we have to be very understanding. This we don't need now. This is, again, as I mentioned in the first webinar, in the second module, that we need our eyes because they are on the front line. They do the job, the first job. Why? Because they have to decode. They have to identify the patterns of the letters and to convert it into sound. So they are my combat fighters. Here I mentioned the letter B. People always look for clues how to remember the B and the directionality, and I prefer just to put the capital B because most of the students know how to write A, B, C in capital letters. Okay? They may not know the letter H, they may not know the letter F, but A, B, C, most of them can write. So we put the letter B, and we put next to it the smaller case, and we show that the bellies, we call it bellies, go in the same direction. So the first pages are reviews and extra practice, but visual practice, just to highlight the different letters that have similarities, visual similarities, nothing to do with the sound. Okay, so for instance, the H, the N, the U, all those have visual similarities and cause confusion. So this is just for visual practice. After we have highlighted, we read. The special features and advantages of the advanced soft read also includes, or the main features, that we detach from meaning. Okay, I go back to the pianist who practices the scales. I don't need any compositions now. I need to keep it very simple and very technical and no abstract meaning and no understanding, and I'm even ashamed to say, but no thinking. No thinking is required. We keep it very, very simple and technical at this point. And we also have no expectations. We don't mind if he knows English or he doesn't know, if he can understand what we say, if he can understand what he reads. No understanding is required. Everything is simple, no expectations. And this approach makes it easier for the student because there are no expectations. No expectations, no frustrations, everything is easy. The letter Y. The letter Y is important because later it's going to determine if we hear the sound S or the sound K in the letter C, if we hear the sound J or the sound G in the letter G. So we have a small introduction about the problematic Y. We introduced the Y not as a semi-vowel, but as a letter that has two functions. One functions as a regular letter, as in the word yellow and yo-yo, and once as a stop letter, as in the words baby, lady, family. So we have two functions for the Y, two roles, okay? So here on the bottom you can see the explanation, but I don't expect the student to read the explanation, just to look at the symbols. The facilitator will explain a little, but the student has the schematic summary, visual schematic summary. This works the best. The less verbal explanations and the more schematic summaries, the better he feels and the better he remembers. Okay? We have some practice, again, by identify when the Y is a stop letter and when the Y is a regular letter. Sometimes they read it intuitively, and I skip this exercise. We know that we need to take into consideration the neighboring letters because they have an effect on the letters. If we have the C, say, C, G, J, G, okay, it's because of the letters I, E, and Y. So we need to take into consideration who stands next to me if I'm the letter. And then we have these Q, U, which are always queer, the sh, the ch, and the th, which can be th as in three, and v as in father and mother. So this is the first complexity where we have to train the eye to see more than one letter, then to convert it in different sounds depending on who is next to me. So the secret of C and G, I gave you already some hints. We have the G as in gorilla and guitar, but now we are going to learn the J of giraffe. And we have the C, and I think I missed one of the pages here, the K as in cat and in cactus and coffee, and then we teach the C of Cinderella. What is their common secret? The common secret is that they have three letters that determine if we hear the name of the letter, okay? No need for hard G's or soft G's. You hear the name of the letter or you don't hear the name of the letter. So here again, the schematic summary and the exercise, the assignment, the practice. First, the visual practice. We first need to identify the three yellow letters because they are the determiners. Then we find also the other stop letters and we highlight them in pink. Then we find the G's, the letter G, but we highlight it in blue only if a yellow letter stands next to it, because then it becomes a J. It sounds maybe now a little complicated, but we show it because there are always examples pre-highlighted. So we show it to the student and very, very, they understand it really fast. First thing is to identify. Second thing is to circle, to make a sound unit, to see where the pattern works, and then we read. So here is what I've just said. First we circle, then we highlight. Circling helps to perceive the combination, to capture the combination into your mind. And then the highlighting helps us, first because it's highlighted, of course, and then we can also read first, let's say, those who have been highlighted orange, and then those have been highlighted green, etc. So instead of reading all the patterns together, we can read them separately according to the color. Okay? All these pre-reading activities will help train the eye to read, and of course will move away the frustration and all the anti-feelings, and will manipulate the student into working. And even though the student will be reluctant to read, we have already achieved something in their brain. We did something to their brain. We now know to call it, we rewire the brain. But before, we didn't know how to call it. But we knew that we did something, we engraved, we made a change, even though the student will refuse to read. But I can tell you that no student refuses to read. Because once they understand why they read a j and not g, or vice versa, they are not afraid to read anymore. So here is the highlighting and the circling. First circling, then highlighting. I always emphasize that circling is more important than highlighting. Circling, by circling, I capture the pattern and I engrave it into my mind. So circling is much more important than highlighting. The children sometimes prefer to highlight because it's coloring, but I insist on circling. Okay? So first we circle, then we highlight, then we read. And this is actually the principle of the whole method. Identify, circle, highlight, read. The QU, we introduced the QU through the queen. Thanks goodness, the queen has a QU at the beginning. Then we call the Q the queen, and the U is the servant or the helper or the assistant. Depends on how you want to introduce it. But the queen cannot live without her assistant. So this is why they're always together. And then again, identify, circle, highlight, read. Each of the patterns is introduced verbally and with symbols, personification. You don't have to read everything. It's enough if you explain it orally, and always draw the attention to the symbols, because they will remember the symbols much more than your explanation. Here is an exercise where we want to differentiate between the G, the P, and the Q. Again, because of the visual similarity. Okay? The TH we introduce in two ways, or because it has two different sounds, as I said before. One's for three and thin, and one's for father and mother. And then we have the sheriff, or shampoo, or shower, and we have the cheetah, and the, don't know what we have here, and the chips. Okay, chat. All the pages from book advanced, yes. This is why I said it overlaps the end of soft read, because if you can read already in Spanish, but you don't have CH and TH and all the rest, so you can start from this book. You don't need to go through everything. Okay. You see again, less words and more schematic explanations or summaries and symbols. Okay, and here we have the exercise, learning difficulties, lot of drilling, because when you have learning difficulties, the best thing is to practice, practice, practice. Anyway, it's very important with students with learning difficulties. It's more important. And this is what it looks like. Circle and highlight in different colors. Again, when it's too difficult to read it all, we ask the student first to read all the yellows, and then all the, let's say, the purples, and then all the orange words, etc. I'm checking if you are still with me. Yes, you are. Okay, I can see you. I learned to check. Okay. Phonetic dictations. Every lesson or two, we have a review, and we have the phonetic dictations. Here they are expected to write it. And this is very important because this is another way to convert the pattern from what they hear into a written format. Okay? Now, if you remember, I mentioned this in the previous session. Sorry. I want my students to be able to read these words without knowing them previously. Okay? Because if I know the word, then there's no decoding needed, maybe, because they have already captured it. But if you remember, reading, for me, is a tool for acquisition, and this is why I need them to be able to read new words, unknown words, accurately. So, how do I know if it's gobbing or gobing, or libbing or libing, or biller or biler? Okay? This is one of the things I want my students to be able to read and to know why. You know, it's not enough just to read. I like them to know why, because I like logic and reason. If you know the word, you know this is dinner and this is dining, but they don't know why. I want them to know why hitting versus biting and liking, as I mentioned before, leaking and licking. Okay, so here comes our bodyguard. When we have a bodyguard, we feel safe and protected. When I asked my students once, how do you feel when you have a bodyguard? If you had a bodyguard around you, somebody said, I would feel like a celeb. Okay? I said, okay, but this is not what I really meant. I'm talking about the protection. You feel safe. So we came up with the bodyguard, and the bodyguard protects these 5 letters. The A, the E, the I, and the U. And this is the first time I mention the names of the letters. And I need them only to know these 5 names. A, E, I, O, and U. Okay? So what is the story? The story of the bodyguard. When the bodyguard is around, these letters feel safe and are not afraid to say their names. Okay? Easy. If they are not afraid to say their names, then instead of sit, we will say sight. And instead of bit, we will say bite. Instead of lick, we'll say like. And instead of kit, we'll say kite. Why? Because the bodyguard is around. Okay? And here you have a list. At versus 8, or fate versus fat, and hate versus hat, etc., etc. There is a color code. And this color code goes with us throughout the practice of the bodyguard. Okay? Here at this next page, we have the explanation that the name of the letter A is heard, not anymore as A as in apple, but A as in cake. And the Eskimo is no Eskimo anymore because now we have the protection of the bodyguard, and now we hear the name of the letter as in the word here. And the same with the word smile and like, because the bodyguard protects the eye, and now the eye is free and happy to say its name. Clothes and nose and YouTube and cute and computer, so all these words are easy words where the name of the letter is heard, but it's heard only when the bodyguard is around. And if you see the arrow, that's the effect that the bodyguard has. It goes over one letter and protects the vowel, so to speak. Okay. Then again, we have some more explanation. We have a phonetic dictation. And here, okay, yes. Now, when we are going to read the bodyguard, words with the bodyguard, we need to see if there is a bodyguard, like bit versus bite. Then we need to realize if it affects, like live versus leave, because there are 2 vowels, it doesn't have an effect anymore. And then we have to fine-tune the sound, because many of the students have difficulty in saying I and A, and they cannot hear the difference between like and lake. And even if they can hear, it's difficult for them to implement the sound. You know, there's a big difference between hearing and being able to implement it. So it's not just enough to see it visually, you also need to see if it still has the power to affect, and then also to put the right sound and not to get confused between the I and the A. Okay, so then they have a sorting exercise, and they have 2 pages where they have to highlight and put the arrows and everything, and this is what it looks like eventually. Okay, they have to find the bodyguard, they have to put the arrow, and to follow the same color code as before. Now, when it is complicated, we first read only the I's and then the A's and then the O's according to the color. Sometimes it's very complicated and we do only 1 color per lesson. We today learn only the I, and next lesson we learn the A. Okay? By the way, don't forget that if the difficulty is really, or if the student is really struggling, we don't give a lesson of 60 minutes of reading only, but we incorporate the games as well. Okay, it's not that he's going to read for 1 hour words with I in it or in them. Okay, we're going to integrate also and embed also other activities. That depends on the ability of the student, and this is where you will decide what the lesson will look like. Sometimes I have students who need to pass their university exams, their academic exams, their entrance exams, and they are very motivated and have no problem in sitting and learning. So they come even 3 times a week, and we finish the program in 2 or 3 weeks. But this depends on the motivation, on the age, on so many factors. So here are the games. I showed them to you last week as well. Vocabulary games where you don't show the written word. You play only with the cards and not with the written words. And later you add also the written words. This is the same autistic boy. I would like to show you how he learned the vocabulary while we were doing the reading program. Let's see.
מעט. טוב, מה אתה יודע?
What do you know? What do you remember?
Basketball, תהפוך. A basketball. And toys and
cake.
A cake. אתה זוכר? Bottle, very good.
House and doll and cake.
Very good. Table. A hat.
And
cap.
And soup.
לא, אתה זוכר עוד.
Remember more.
Door.
Glass. window. וזה הכי קשה.
This is the most difficult.
soul. Jerry.
We cannot say it.
נכון, איך היה? יש עוד אחד, זה הכי קשה. pencil. case. תגיד עוד פעם.
pencil case.
נכון, עכשיו תחייך. smile. יופי.
Okay. So here we go on. This is how we introduce the U sound, and we show them that first we have the O as in orange, then we have the O as in nose, and then we get to the U. So it's the same letter with variations. And then they have again a practice page where they have to identify visually the double O, the O with the bodyguard, and a single O. Then we come to the complicity of the EA. EA, as you of course know, can be E as in ice cream, but also A as in bear. So here not only that they have to see, to identify 2 letters as one, actually, They also have to know when it's an E and when it's an E. There are no rules. The only thing that I came up with only recently is that when you have only, if you look at the word bear, if you omit one letter on one side of the pattern, then it will always be E and never be E. Okay? So this is something I came up with, and it's very easy. You see on the bottom, T, eat, read. So if you have T, you have the pattern, you have one letter on one side of the pattern, but not on the other, and eat the same. So then it will be always E. But if it's in between two letters or more, you cannot know if it's an E or an E. So this is something which is explained in the book, and then we also have a sorting exercise. We of course show the cheese so they can pronounce it correctly. We have the ice cream versus green, which are both pronounced as E. Wait to chat. Okay. And here on the bottom, on the right-hand side, we have several words that can be read as E and as A, like read and read, and tear and tear, and lead and led. So this makes everything even more complicated, but again, we cannot expect the student at this stage to remember everything, or even to overwhelm him. Here, when it comes to the reading exercise, we put the clue, the symbol as a clue, next to each word that should be read as E. Okay, because they don't know the words. Those who know the words, they will find it easier. Those who don't know the words will need our clue. And I always say here we have a problem. We don't know if it's an E or an E, if it's in the middle of a word. If you know the word, you are lucky. If you want to learn the word, then you can look it up. But this is not the goal of this book. The goal of the method here at this stage is not to teach vocabulary. It's just to do the reading from a technical aspect. Okay? So I don't pay attention or too much or almost no attention to vocabulary. Here you see the sorting. And here we come to the OW. I want to show you that we cover almost all the patterns. Okay, window, yellow, slow versus cow and now. Again, the schematic summary. Again, clue letters. If you know that after OW, if you have N, D, T, or S, it will be sound or pronounced as an ow. This is why we say a brown cow. Okay, if the end of the word is OW, there is no clue. You cannot know if it's cow or co. But we have 4 letters that can help us, and most probably, if you have D, T, S, or N, it will be own. This is why we say clown and down, etc. And then again, they have, they have this. You see on the left, my left. I hope it's also your left. You can see again clues. Whenever it should be sounded as in yellow, you have the mark of yellow. When it sounds as in brown, you have the mark of the color brown. They have to find the 3 letters where they are and to circle all 3 together. So this is what I call train the eye and rewire the brain, where we have to catch or to capture not only 2 letters, but 3. When I see the 3 letters, I can deduct that it's going to be an ow sound and not an o sound, and I have no dilemma. Okay, the 3rd letter helps me with the dilemma. This exercise, which comes after, shows or practices already several patterns together. It's a review. We have the E, EA, double E, O, W, D, and double O, and the bodyguard. After each unit, at the end of each unit, we have a review of sentences, and this is like coming closer to reading with meaning and for meaning. So here we have, at the end of each unit, sentences, simple sentences, and then sometimes also a story. The advantage of the sentences and of the story is that it includes only the patterns that have been introduced. Okay, so the story is carefully designed and told in such a way that it uses only words with patterns that have been introduced. If the student knows English, and very often they know English and they cannot read, then they enjoy the story. If the student does not know English, his task is just to recognize, identify, or first identify and then recognize the patterns. That's all. And this is also why they are not intimidated by the story. You know, very often when they see a long story, then they get intimidated. No, I don't want to read, I cannot read, blah, blah. No, you don't need to read. You don't need to understand. Just find the patterns. And then they will read. Even though they didn't mean to read, they will read. And those who understand will enjoy that story. They're simple stories, nice stories. Each time when I come across something important, I'm saying this is important. So this again is important. Why is it important? Because some of you may think too many rules. Double E, E-A, third letter, no third letter. They need rules. Why do they need rules? Because they suffer from a disorder. We come with an order. We come with logic. So this is a real helpful tool for them to read. And this is why I say I teach with logic. I don't want them to learn by heart. I don't want to capture words. I don't want dictations and learn that, you know, in picture they have the chair and they don't pay attention actually to the components of the word. I don't want a global reading. I want them to understand I want them to understand why the word is written and the way it is written. So I come with a logic explanation and I come with rules, and because they have learning disabilities, rules is like a lifesaver for them. So this is our lifesaver. Don't be afraid of rules, they love it. And if they are afraid not to remember, first of all, we have a summary at the end of all the rules, and secondly, you don't really have to remember, you have to implement them. Okay? They're not rules to be remembered or to be memorized and learned. All you have to do is to work and to implement the rule, to find the pattern in what you read. Okay, implementation is the golden key, so this is what I just said in different words. Okay, here we come to the robot. The robot causes a lot of damage. The R, the letter R, actually has a great impact on the letters that stand before it, and we introduce it through the R, the and the The IR and the UR have the same pronunciation, and the R is different, and the robot makes a lot of mess. So here we introduce first the R. We show again the change that the letter A can be, first of all, A as in apple, and then it can be A as in cake, and then all of a sudden, because of the letter R, it gets the sound R as in car and park and star. And then we go on to the sound, which is difficult for them to pronounce, and we show the like in girl and in yes sir, which they know, and of course birthday, birthday cake, and usually they can say the word girl. If you ask them, say girl, or how do you say girl in English, they will say girl. But if they read it, very often they will read it as gill. Okay, so they know the sound, they know the word, but now we need to show them how it's written. And when it's written, how we say it. I know, for instance, the word firm is mostly mispronounced. When people read the word firm, because they don't know it, they read firm, they don't read firm. Okay, and then we have the earl as in purple, and then we have again a summary, the cat versus car, and the girl versus, the gift versus girl, and the cat versus curl, bubble versus purple. We have some special, not special, some extra explanation regarding the R, because when it's doubled, it has no effect, like in carrot and parrot, and also the bodyguard has no effect because we say care versus car. So there's a lot to be mentioned. You don't need to mention everything. You will decide according to your student what should be mentioned and what not. Okay. Here it's what it looks like. Again, the main thing is to circle, to find the pattern, and then to highlight it, and then to read. Of course, you don't need to read everything. You read 5 words, 10 words, you don't need to read everything, but sometimes according to the nature of the lesson and the student, you read everything. Again, sentences and a story. Then we go to the chair sound, like in picture. We show that it's not like in the word chair. We have also completion. You see, when they have the word and all they have to do is to complete with the pattern. It's interesting to note that when chair stands next to the word, next to the letter U or A, very often, not very often, almost always, it behaves like the bodyguard and gets the sound A and the sound U out of the letter, like in feature versus future, where you hear the U. Why? Because the pattern is next to the letter U. So it has its effect on the U and on the A when the pattern is next to these letters. You can also explain because it's a stressed syllable, but if they don't know how to read, they don't know where the stress is, so this is meaningless. So I use the pattern which they can identify visually, and I say when the pattern is next to A or U, very often you hear the name of the letter. Then we cover the shin and the jin. I think in your native language it's also a pattern, but it is pronounced differently. So here you may not have a big difficulty, only to teach the pronunciation of English. Then we have again a sorting exercise, but I want to show you that we have lots of activities around the pattern. We introduce the pattern, we circle, highlight, sort, read. There's a lot to be done with the pattern, so it's not boring. And of course, you can teach or use this book along with other things that you do. Again, it depends of the goal. If there's somebody who his reading is not fluent enough, but he has to pass a test, a written test in reading comprehension, the first goal should be to ease the reading, to make the reading more fluent so we can attach meaning and analyze passages, understand the passages in a more abstract way. Here we come to the meaningful words, where the pattern is part of it. Again, we have a dictation. You have another example of how we circle and highlight. You see the word frustration because of the pattern next to the word A, next to the letter A. We hear the A, frustration, okay? Liberation, invitation, operation. And it doesn't work with the letter I, like partition, we don't say partition, Okay. Then we also introduced the sh, like CIA. If you remember in the first stodgy assignment, we had a lot of CIA and TIA. So this is a pattern by itself. We introduce it, we highlight, circle, highlight, read. And you won't believe it, but there are many words with these patterns, okay? The word like technician, essential, these are good words. When I say good words, I mean I like the words. Essential is a great word. Beneficial is a great word. No reason to stumble over it when we learn it. A review, each time we have a review of all the patterns together. This is the most difficult part, where you have 5 letters, okay? The student has to capture 5 letters. I don't like to teach that the GH are silent because it doesn't help me. This is a pattern. The OU doesn't stand for OU. It's not like OW. And all these 5 sound differently. So the AUGHT, altogether, we pronounce them as ot, as in the word daughter or naughty. And then we come to the AUGH, okay? But the main thing here in this slide, what I want to emphasize is that the student needs to see 5 letters and then to convert the sound. Okay, so here we have the ot. It is introduced through the word daughter. It's a derivative, so we derive the ot out of daughter. And actually, this is also when we can show that it is the past form of many odd forms, okay? Instead of learning it by heart and always get it wrong, we teach first the pattern, and then it's much easier to learn the past form of these words. And then we come to the, I don't know how to say, this stupid pattern that has no f sound, but you have to introduce it and to tell the student that when he sees this pattern, he actually should remember that there is a f sound, like in laugh and in enough. And then we come to the tough. And then it's very difficult to read tougher because the f goes with the air and they have to connect all the sounds together. So it's also a problematic assignment to first identify the f, to say tough, and then to use the to connect the and to get tougher. All this is from my experience, all the difficulties that I face with my students. I'm now sharing with you, but with the solution. So this is again a review of all the last more complicated patterns with a completion assignment. This is what it looks like. Then we have a story, first sentences, then a story. And what I mentioned before, no need to understand the story. This is not the aim. All we want is that the student will get used to reading stories and not run away from them. Okay? Of course, the fluency of decoding, and to gain confidence. You know, confidence is the core of everything. Dictations, and another pattern like through blue, we have to teach them that when you say new, you hear the new, but after R and L, you cannot hear the U. Another difficult pattern is the ite, as in night and fight and light, and then the 8. And here we have a story that says that we have 2 brothers, and the 2 brothers are 8 and 8, and they gave birth to children. So these children are all cousins. The 8 has 2 children, and they resemble the father very much. And so do the children of the brother 8. And because they resemble their fathers, they also resemble as cousins. And you can see that I is really part, the son I is part of 8, and the son A is part of 8, only the T is omitted. So this is how we teach them the derivatives and the logic of the language. And all the blue ones have the same sound of I. By the way, the Eind, as in find, we call them a remote cousin. So all the blue ones have the same sound of I, and all the yellow ones have A. And then we have to find it. We have to identify them. I hope I have, yes. And here, for instance, this is, I never allow them to highlight before I check the circles, because they always forget the letter E. They always find the I, but they exclude the letter E. So I first check that they did it right, and only then I allow them to highlight. Here is another review with completion. We have the owl. You see the owl, we always think of owl as in house and sound and mouse, but when the R, the robot comes, it changes into like in course or for. And we have also the suffix of OUS, so we also introduce it like in nervous. Curious, okay. Sorry, okay. This is one of the last pages where we have all the silent letters, like at the beginning of the word, at the end of the word. This is the easiest part, because you only have to capture 2 letters. Okay, when they say like knob, when they say knob, it's funny, but not to be blamed. Elephant, you know, people read elephant without notice. They don't see the PH as F. They learn globally to read elephant, and when you give them another word with PH, they will not read it as F. So this exercise practices all these KN, BT, MB, like in bomb. And then we have this exercise, sorry, where we cross out the letter that we don't hear. And this is the end of the book, where we have a summary of all the patterns that we taught. And at the end, which I don't have a slide of, we have the same page, but without the words. So when you look, for instance, at the yellow and the brown cow, there is a box, and the student fills out and writes the word yellow and brown box and television, etc. So this is kind of a review. This is for the student, so it can always refer to it, but then there is another review where the student fills in or writes in the box the word that is the flag word, according to which we remember the patterns. So this is a review of everything. This is a very important slide. Okay, you see at the end we attach the meaning only at the end. These are some, see it's late, sorry, some tips. Respectful relationship, don't belittle your student, don't talk, just show. Okay, sometimes too much talking is overwhelming. They shut down, they don't listen. They just want a short explanation and to be active. All those students who have ADHD and ADD, once you keep them active, they won't disturb. Everything in small steps. Always refer to examples and provide examples and summaries. And this is one of the things that I wanted to show you, that we are here for that reason. This is one of the reasons that we want to share our knowledge, because we want you to become our reps and to share with us the knowledge and the know-how and the method. And we are also starting now. Here's Florence. Florence is back. We are also working now on an application, and I hope that within the next 5 months we will have an application, so everything will be even easier. Still, you could always also use books and card games, but life will be easier also with an application. Okay, Florence, the floor is yours.
I don't know much to say. Thank you all for participating, bearing with us. We will again send you the link to all 3 sessions, all 3 modules, for you to go over them. And I will send you the questionnaire throughout the upcoming week with all the instructions and everything. And like Daniela said, even until we have the application, you're welcome to ask for our products. We have Natasha as our local rep in Slovenia, who will gladly address all of your questions and guide you through with the materials. She has stock, she can provide it for you. And if you're from South America, you can also get the products from Argentina. And we're diversifying and slowly reaching everyone who wants to join us in this endeavor of providing a solution for our students with dyslexia and for our struggling students of all ages.
Do you have any provider in Central America, Costa Rica?
We are working closely with someone in Costa Rica, and hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks we'll be closing our rep in Costa Rica, and we will start the process of shipping to Central America and having someone locally delivering the products. Yes, for sure.
Okay. Please let me know.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Great.
it will be a pleasure. The more the merrier. Seriously, the more the merrier. And we need people to engage, and we need people to join us. And yeah, I think that's all.
Where are you located? In which country?
We are located in Israel. The home base is Israel. But as I said, we have lovely Natasha in Europe as our local anchor, and also South America, Argentina is our other base of operations.
Great.
Yeah.
I will be going for a tour to Israel, so maybe I can go and buy myself a book.
We would love to receive you and cover all the doubts and everything. I'm going to stop the recording just to
yeah, please.